Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI live noding. Today I'll be talking about something that's really simple. It's kind of I'll be using animation nodes, and I'll be showing you one thing that I think is quite funny and might be useful um, for any kind of Blender users, even if you're not like a you're not familiar with the idea of programming, but you want to start to get used to kind of Python programming or the idea of programming, but still afraid of. So if you're like a seasonal programmers, you might find this part to be really basic. But if you're if you're not a programmer and then you're just using node-based visual programming, you will find this kind of interesting. So let's just jump into it. Um, I want to point out you can start with this node, and it's called object visibility input and output. We're gonna focus on the object visibility output. If you're guessing this particular node, you can probably tell what it can do. It's kind of it can hide objects and display back objects depending on the Boolean input, and it's really simple. However, it's a good starter if you want to understand about Boolean. So let's have like a tree object. I didn't really prepare like a lesson or anything. I'm just gonna explore this idea. So even this node alone, if you look at the advanced node settings, there's like a this node info help, and then if you click on it, it's quite long, and then it says it's convenience node and blah blah blah. It allows you to, it displays one idea, kind of you can easily hide an object. Just this node allows you to hide objects, or if you want more, there's also like a hide render, hide selected, show name, show axis, all this kind of something that might be useful. Or it doesn't, it should show up here when I select it. Oh, okay, I need to do it like here. So by default, you can of course easily let's say I'm selecting cube number 1 here, and then use the eyedropper, and then okay, that object is now disappear because I have it I check the tick box here, so I'm hiding the object. Or I can hide the render so it will not render, or hide select so I cannot select the object in the 3D viewport. Let's see, it's not selectable anymore. And you can also show name, show axis, show x-ray, all sort of stuff that you might often do on a regular basis. You might also you might also want to do it to multiple objects at the same time, and then I want to point to you there's one node that's kind of doing it almost immediately. It's called get selected objects, and this node can be quite dangerous depending on what you're doing. If you're just like hiding objects, playing with the visibility or render or selectability or the object name and all this stuff, it's kind of okay. But if you're starting to do like a making script that delete objects when it's got selected, you should be careful with these objects, because this object will do it almost immediately. I'll show you. So if we have like this object visibility output, and then I'll get rid of the objects now, and then with this node get selected objects, this node will get calculated. This node kind of monitoring what you're doing. Whatever you are selecting, this node knows what you're selecting, and it also knows the active objects. The active objects is the last object selected. Usually it has this kind of yellowish color, while the rest of selected objects get a kind of like a orange color. So the last selected is a yellow color. I'll hide the lamp and the camera for now. So we have like a 9 cubes right here, and then let's say you want to show the name of each and every object. The fastest way is, of course, to use Python. If you're familiar with Python and then you want to do it that way, you can do that. Let's say we just want to display an object name and then hide it again. Normally, if you're a beginner Python user and then someone wants to teach you Python in Blender, they will show you that almost all operators have like a history that you can use to turn on object on and off. Sometimes it's not very clear, like this is doing an operations, but it's really depends on what you're selecting, really. So anyhow, if you're using animation nodes, you kind of, and especially with this get selected objects, you can kind of have like a more visual kind of things. So you have like this assistant, and you can command this guy to do what you want to do. So okay, in this case we want to show the name of each object in the 3D view, and for that, with the get selected objects, because it's gonna generate lists, right? So we're gonna use loop through selected objects, and I keep it really simple for now. It's just this. So this node is keep monitoring of what you're selecting. If you want to just show the name, and you can use this node as an example. Show the name, tick. It's being ticked, and then I also turn it on. We can just pass this into the object, and then now for every selected object, it's gonna display the name. So I'll select all this guy, and then if I have all those objects selected, and then I wanna hide the name, I'll just untick this. So the effect is almost immediately. You can also do that with a render, or hiding objects, or unhide the objects. It's really like super immediate, and I believe you can still undo, but yeah, that's really powerful, because it's being calculated every frame. So let's say I'm setting it to hide, and I already hide one object, and it's gone, and I cannot select it anymore. If you know Blender, you can go to outliner and then display that object again. But since this is almost immediately, so whatever I'm doing in the 3D view, it will hide the objects. So that's kind of really useful sometimes, but just be careful. You might accidentally do something that you don't want. That's about hiding. Now if we turn visibility on again, apart from this object visibility output, you can also use object attribute output. So this is for for more advanced users, and same with this node, you'll be more careful with this this node, because you can do almost anything. This so if I plugged in the object first, this is usually what I do, and then if I want to hide these objects, or maybe do something a little bit more interesting, like turn it into wire, so we can see, okay, this with a wire attribute. The name is show underscore wire. So if we do that, show underscore wire, and then use the Boolean input and plug that in, now I can actually turn on and off the wire for each object. So that's not particularly interesting, but let me turn off that. And then let's say you have like a you smooth the object like that, and then you have like for each object you have modifier. By default it's a view 3, render 2. What if you want to make the render to 4 or higher? You think you can select this object and then just change that, and then you think that's doing it for everything. You're not doing that. Let's say you want to turn on and off the subdiv, or you want to make the subdivision a little bit lower on the screen. You can't do it to all the same time unless you're using Python or script or another method. But since we have animation nodes, you can actually do that quite easily. So say for subdivisions, we know that for every object it has this subdivision modifier applied, so we can have a look. Okay, it's a BPY data objects modifier subsurf level. I'll just usually copy the data path, paste it in here. So we actually have access to that almost immediately, and then it's not a Boolean. Boolean is on and off, but in this case you want a integer input. So with this as well, with the idea of being able to modify multiple attributes at the same time it's a basic idea, but you can do it quite easily as well using animation nodes. Okay, and this works because we are using get selected objects, and yeah, so that can be handy. Even let's say now you have like a lamp. I'll bring back the lamp. So this is a single lamp. If you have multiple lamp, 3, 4, I believe Blender has limitations on how many lamps it can calculate in OpenGL. I think 30 is maximum. It probably depends on your graphic card, the memory of your graphic card. But let's say we have like 4 different lamp, and then we want to display it. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'll subdivide more this guy. Subdivide, but increase the subdivision. Oh, it didn't affect the light. Never mind. So I have this bunch of light, and I want to change the energy, and we can do that as well with this with this setup. So so with energy, we know it's a floating value. So let's see, it's a floating value, and then it's called point lamp energy, and we are selecting objects, but it's a type of lamp. Okay, and it's an energy. It says energy not found. Okay, let me change it, and then check it out. Object data energy. So this is when you should be you want to try. Okay, this is not energy, but it's a data.energy. Value has wrong type because it should be a floating value. So we use float input, and once I plug that, it's a 0, 0, 0. All the lamp have like a 0 energy. Now I'm changing it all at the same time, and if I wanna, okay, I just want to select that lamp, and I want to make it like a 2, it's immediately doing it for me. If your thingy is a bit slow, like my computer is super slow, so you don't need to calculate it all the time. You can turn it off. You can in fact turn off everything and then just execute it when you need it. Sometimes I actually do this for some setup where I just need to do it one time. So let's say okay, I'm turn this is to 10, but I don't want to do it immediately. So I set it up, okay, maybe 20, so it can be more obvious. 20, I'm changing here, nothing happens because we haven't executed the nodes tree, but we can select bunch of object, and then once we're happy, we just execute it. Now it's doing it. With the color, for example, light color, let's say if we are, okay, we want to do something a little bit random, just for example, I want to randomize the color of the light. We can certainly do that. Point lamp color, and then if I change the color, let's see, let's double check. Deploy object data.color, so that's what it wants. You can have multiply of this, and if you don't want it to do anything, just cut it like that. So you can have like multiple. Energy color, that's usually what you want. Negative, that's also useful. Let's see, for this lamp, you probably want it. Okay, we were talking about color. Let's do that first. Color is a float, but it's a, I believe it's 3-color float. It's once a 3-color float. Let's try. So select one lamp and select it and plug in a value. The value should be color. It's not complaining, and because it's not calculating, so I'll turn on the auto execution and always. So apparently it's pretty happy with the setup. It's really slow at this moment, so I just change it to, instead of always, I'll change it to property change. So whenever I change the property, it will get calculated. So it's become, say for that lamp, it's become purple. Let's see, for this lamp, I want to make it yellow. Float list is not very useful. Maybe there's another one, like choose color. Okay, choose color maybe. Tree change always. Value has a wrong type. So yeah, with the choose color, it has like a 4 different value. The lamp is only expecting 3. There's also mixed colors. Maybe this is more like it. No, it still doesn't like that. Let's see if I can, if we debug the color. Debug drawer is useful. Always. So it's 4 different value. We only need the first 3. List slice, maybe slice list. So let's debug drawer. Oh, it doesn't. It's not a list. Choose color, combine color, separate color. Yeah, probably there's a way to convert color to just this. I can try the convert. Base also doesn't like it. So it's only expecting 3, but we have like with color we have RGBA. We don't like the A there. So it's rather takes this. So let's turn the light to blue. So it's blue now. Okay, I was thinking to make like a random, but then slightly complex, but not really. We just need a random value between 0 and 1, okay? Random number between 0 and 1, and then it's gonna be 3 different value. The seed can be slightly different. Plug that in, plug that in, plug that in. And then here again we have the setup where the nodes tree is not doing anything unless we execute it. The value has the wrong type. Oh, okay, see, I made a mistake again. Instead of 3 value we have 4, and then we have to delete last one. So now it's giving a random value each time. Energy can be 1. Seems like it's not updating. Execute nodes 3. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I didn't plug this in, so that's why. Execute nodes 3. Did I have it selected for selected objects? Execute node 3. Okay, now it's actually doing it. Random color of lamp every time I execute it. This is not too much fun. I like to have the playback running to have the changes, but somewhat it's super slow. Wonder why. Index seed. Okay, I didn't plug that one. So data color. Let's see. Energy. Float. Input. Turn all the energy into 1. Okay, that's better. So that the color is changing if I change the seed. Yes, of course. In order to have it changing every calculation, I need to have frame going into the seed. Let's So it's kind of a holistic explorations of programming concept using animation nodes. That's how I would call this. You could of course make the light wiggle and maybe rotate accordingly. It's really totally up to you, and basically you have control over attributes, and the effects is live depending on whatever you selected. So that's a powerful idea behind this. In fact, if you want to further explore, you can have a look at the. Okay, before this is like a little bit too complex for this example. But let's say I delete everything, and then there's also another funny note. So we know there's a get selected objects. This is almost like live nodes. It keeps monitoring what you're selecting, and there's another one. It's a object transform object. The first time I tried this node, I was surprised because the nodes. So let's say I'm selecting that object, and then okay, there's a matrix, and I was curious, and then I plugged in the matrix compose, and then I plug that in. Okay, nothing seems to be happening. And then I try increasing the X. Okay, it's not happening because I don't have it on. But if I have it on and then I turn on, you see how the object keeps on traveling, and if I increase the X, it's kind of like moving by itself. This is actually powerful, kind of a way you can have like a create kind of almost like a solver or a simulations, so you can never tell what is gonna happen next. It's kind of just keep pushing the value. So this transform object is particularly dangerous because you if you send the objects far away, you can't get it back. However, this is kind of similar to what we have been doing so far, since the object is kind of doing it almost immediately. So you need to be careful. So it's almost like, okay, you tell the objects, okay, you move 0.2 for every calculations, and then go away, and then keep doing it. It's kind of interesting, you know. In fact, if you're familiar with game logic, if we use something like kind of like a switch, and then if the, let's say if the output is, okay, if true, false, that makes some kind of condition, vector input. Now it's a combined vector. The output, if true, let's see, what's the conditions expression? Don't worry if you got confused with what I'm trying to do. It's soon you will find out. So we can say, okay, for these objects, we're gonna put it back to 0, 0, 0. Okay, and then I'll lift it up. At the moment, the X position is 0. Okay, and I can use a object input, get the object, actually not object input, object transform input. I'll grab that object, and then I'll monitor the locations. The X location, I'll separate the vector. We're just gonna monitor the X, and plug the x into that guy here, the expression, and then I'll say, okay, if the x is smaller than 10 unit, the result's going to be Boolean. It's going to be a true, and I can plug it into the switch node. If true, give the output of 1 or 0.1. If false, do nothing. Okay, 0. And I can plug that into there, and then plug this into there. And it's not doing anything. Did I miss? The object is lamp. Maybe I made a mistake. I was expecting it to move to the side. Let's check it out. Debug drawer. What's the x position? It's 0, 0, 0. And what's this? Oh, so the output is false, so I should put the number into the false. So if true, 0. If false, 0.2. Okay. So now we are using, it's almost like a programming. If it's there's a value here, kind of like a switch. If the condition is true, the condition is this statement. If the x is bigger than 10, maybe I should write this like that. If the x smaller than 10, then 0.2, and if false is 0. Or if false, see, if I put the x like that, the x position is less than 10, so it's keep going and going and going. Let me make this faster. Keep going to the right until your if the value of x is smaller than 10, keep adding the x, something like that. And this actually, if we have the setup like before with the selected objects, we can have an interesting, I don't know how you call it, kind of simulations or something. It's almost like magic. So with this guy, I tend to use loop right away. And then, so okay, for every object, do something. So now, see all the objects kind of, if whatever object I'm selecting, it's kind of start moving until it's around 10 units. It might not be too useful at a glance, but this can be super useful. Let's say you want to drop objects, so it's until it's touching like the ground and then stop moving. You can try doing that. Maybe that's for the next video lessons. But you see, I can select a bunch of objects, and then I can change it here so that if it's false, -10. So the objects will jump -10 or -20. If it's false, if the condition is false. See, whenever it's touching 10, move back by -20. You can even randomize this, you know. instead of if false minus 20, if false, let's say you have like a range of number range, float range, start and step. Float range is not so useful. Maybe random number? Okay, random number. Between minus 30 and minus 20. The seed, plug the index into the seed. This is common. And then the number into false. So now it has like more random positions. When it hits the wall, like a hidden wall, it's gonna jump back. And with our setup, we can have it only for selected object. Yeah, so yeah, there you go. So it's not particularly useful, but really this can be really useful actually. Once you understand the ideas, so what you'll learn today from this video is hopefully you know that you can have immediate effects on objects by using the get selected objects and then the loop and then like a object attribute output. Yeah, so hopefully this video is useful for you. I guess I'll see you